This is a test of the City of Palaca audio system. Pastor Mulberry, I believe you're muted. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Pastor Mulberry, would you proceed with the invocation, please?
Absolutely. Father, we thank you once again for another day. We thank you for how good you've been. You blessed us to come together once again, and we say thank you. Pray, God, for the wisdom that is needed to guide and direct this meeting. Father, we pray that your hand will rest upon each participant and that you will give us guidance, understanding, and the know-how to do further the continuance of this city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Cranston, may we have a roll call?
Yes, of course. Chair Van Rensburg is not present. For the record, it's an excused absence. Vice Chair Alan Sheffield,
Here.
Larry Beaton is an excused absence for the record. Chris Hollister. Present. Brianna Pierce. Present. Patty Vogt. Present. Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Appeal procedures. Let me read this and then I'll be asking about ex parte communication. Actually, I like this version of it better. Your notice, any person aggrieved by a decision of the board may, within 15 days thereafter, apply to the city commission for review of the board's decision. Such application must be filed with the city manager in writing. Objections by property owners to National Registry nominations must be notarized to be included in the record. So any persons wishing to appeal decisions made by the Historic Preservation Board with respect to any matter considered at such a meeting will need a record of the proceeding, and for such purpose may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceeding is made at the applicant expense, which record includes the testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. Okay. Persons with disabilities requiring accommodations in order to participate in this meeting should contact the city clerk's office at 586-329-0100 at least 24 hours in advance to request accommodations. Ex parte communications. Okay. There are none. So with that, I'm going to move forward. The minutes were provided to us for the January 5th meeting prior to this meeting, and also included in your packets here. So I would entertain a motion either to accept them as they are, if there are any comments or discussions prior meeting.
I move to accept them.
I'll
Okay, it's
second.
moved. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay. All right. Now we're going to open up for public comment. And just remember, this is really limited to 3 minutes. No action to be taken on these items. And those of you who are here for the items already on the agenda, you will get another opportunity to speak. Please walk up to the mic, provide your name, address, whether you're a citizen, taxpayer, business owner, we're welcome. I don't have any cards before me, so if anyone's out there and hasn't filled out a card, they're located to my left, the yellow or gold slip there to fill out to be called for public comment. Anyone for public comment? Okay, Yes, I tell you what, if you want to come up and give that information in terms of your name, your address, and that information, and we can fill that out just after your comment then. Yes. Okay, come on up. And would you step up to the podium there, please? And you can touch the button there and your mic should be on. Okay. Yep.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, it's on. My name is Matthew Arnold. I'm a resident here in the city of Black and I live at 422 Madison Street. I was kind of just coming up and asking for an emergency hearing. I'm trying to get the certificate of appropriateness for a roof. I'm in a manner with like insurance. I had to put a new roof on my building because insurance dropped me. And I've been trying to go through and do all the correct things like with the county, get the county permit and the grant, like the historic grant. And I just got confused with the, I guess, permit application process going in and out of the city. There was a man there that every time I would go in, not every time, but the first 3 times, he just kept offering to buy my property who worked there. And I thought that was pretty unprofessional. But I'm just trying to ask for maybe a look at like what I did with the roof. And I'm just getting a lot of fines every day because I don't have a good insurance on it. I'm getting just kind of screwed, sorry for the terminology. So I was just trying to get a hearing for this certificate of appropriateness, I guess, and what I did.
As far as the actual application process, to get on this agenda, what has been done as far as that?
I've paid I paid the $250 fee, I guess, for the late permit on the roof. And I believe when I tried to get scheduled for today, I was like 1 day behind. It needed to be like 12 days. And when I spoke to her, it was 1 day short, I believe.
Yeah, because
it was right around that.
because it is interesting because there's an order because legally we have to notify those that are surrounding the area where a change is being considered. And so there are requirements that have to be, Ms. Walsh has to follow in order to do that. So if you miss that by 1 day, it's missed, but I would believe, and I could let Ms. Walsh speak to this, we could see what there is to do now to get you there, but it sounds like you're dealing with other parties that are finding you.
No, pretty much right now, I'm just waiting on the certificate of appropriateness that on the roof that I changed out and it's already done because I've already got the permit from the county and I'm just waiting on the inspector to come and check it out, but I can't do any of that until.
Right,
the
because
first part was done.
yeah, and in order for us to grant a certificate of appropriateness, we have to go through these certain protocols of notification and actual hearing and then granting. And so I apologize for whatever confusion. I don't know what was happening at the county or who this person was that was sending you down the possible wrong path or delaying it where you missed it by 1 day. But if we can go ahead and get that in order now to see what can be done to be on the next meeting, we have an ordinance that we have to follow in order to grant that.
Okay.
And unfortunately, those notifications are key legal pieces that we have to follow.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
It was just frustrating because when I would come in to help Mr. I forget his name. Like I said, he offered to buy my place 3 times before offering help, which that's pretty, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, done. Thank you so very much. Any other comments from the members?
I know Matt, I know his family and everything. I think what he's asking for is if he gets the paperwork in, can we have a special meeting in a couple of weeks to help alleviate the financial burden he has?
And there are procedures to call the special meeting also. And so, Ms. Walsh, can you remind us of what those are and so that he hears that at the same time?
The meetings have to be noticed just as they do a regular meeting notice. So you wouldn't be able to have a special meeting until at least 2 to 3 weeks from now. It takes us sometimes 3 or 4 days, maybe longer, to get ads in the paper because the paper doesn't run on Sunday or Monday. So even if we sent an ad in tomorrow, it would be unlikely for it to run Saturday. And so you would still be 2 to 3 weeks out.
Is everything set and are you okay to come before the next meeting, next scheduled meeting?
Financially, yeah, I moved some stuff around.
Okay. I recommend that you get all the paperwork done, get everything in, so it is scheduled for the next meeting then.
Mr. Arlen does have the paperwork in. He just paid the fee today.
Great.
And so we can start that. He will be on the March agenda.
Excellent. Sorry, there wasn't a way, but we've got to work in accordance with the ordinance. But thank you. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion of the meeting and move on to regular business. The first item in terms of regular business is HPB case 23-01, a request for a certificate of appropriateness to demolish 2 accessory structures and repair 1 accessory structure. Ms. Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lisa Walsh, Planning Director. The location of this property is at the corner of Kirkland and Emmett. It's 424 Emmett as noted. It was originally constructed between 1882 and 1884 and is one of the oldest surviving structures in Palaca per the Florida Master Site File. There are 9 double hung sash windows in the house structure, as well as 6x6 casement windows and multiple leaded glass windows in the house. The carriage house structure in the backyard has a 6x6 casement window. It was at one time owned by the Mellon family of Pennsylvania multimillionaire fame. And they retained ownership through the 1930s. There has been an open code enforcement case on the property since February 26th of 2021. This application is part of the property owner's efforts to resolve that case. The request is to repair various components of the house and demolish 2 of the 3 accessory buildings in the backyard. The proposed work endeavors to bring the property into code compliance in accordance with code case 2021-015. This includes general vegetative cleanup of the property, repairing 4 broken window panes, pressure washing the exterior of the home, and the iron fence that surrounds 2 sides of the property, and remove 2 of the existing accessory structures in the backyard. Staff has looked at the Sanborn fire maps from 1915 and 1924, which can be found online at the Florida Master Site File site. The 1915 map shows an accessory structure in place in the northwest corner of the property with the walls of the structure right on the respective property lines. The 1924 map shows 4 separate accessory structures added on to what would be the left of the original accessory structure. Therefore, all the structures could be considered historic with reference to age. However, the only accessory structure that appears to be consistent with the style of the residence is a 2-story pitched roof building located approximately in the middle of the remaining structures. All the structures have a wall located on the rear property line that would not conform to current zoning development standards. The iron fence on the street sides of the property has been pressure washed. The property owner has submitted the fence does not need painting as it wasn't painted in the past. Photographs of the fence are included here to provide the board with information that the fence may have been painted in the past. The staff recommendation is such that the demolition request obviously is something that must go before the board. The other items listed on the application, except painting the fence, can be classified as ordinary maintenance and can be approved by staff and mostly probably don't even need a COA, as there could be considered ordinary maintenance and repair. Staff recommends the board consider the condition, age, location, and consistency with the resident style of each of the subject structures in the backyard proposed for demolition. Staff also requests that the board consider whether it is appropriate to paint the iron fence. Sunny, if you could scroll down to the photographs of the fence, please. These are close-ups, obviously, of the condition of the fence currently.
If you go to the other one, where it showed the scroll, it shows that there's flaked, one more up. That's flake paint right there in the scroll, so the fence was painted at one time.
Okay. And then Sunny, if you could scroll to the next picture after this one. The one of, after this one, please. Yeah. Thank you. So this is a photograph of the structures as taken from the sidewalk. You can see the pitched roof on the structure in the center, roughly in the center, and also the windows, the casement window to the right-hand side of that structure.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have anyone from this proposal here that is looking to speak before we consider this further?
Yes, it's actually 3 of us. 4 of us.
Well, what I'd like to do is to see if there are any particular things you think are germane to us making the decisions that really Ms. Walsh has pointed us to consider, being the painting of the wrought iron fence, and then which structures in terms of removing or demoing the structures. If you go ahead.
Right. My name is William Forzo, 13250 Devore Avenue.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if you could turn on his microphone, please. I
Oh,
can't
I'm
hear.
sorry. Yes,
Push the button.
please.
Hi, my name is William Corzo, 13250 Gabor Avenue, Orlando, Florida, 32827. What I propose, I'm going to address the fence first, and if Ms. Andrews, who's also with us, if she has follow-up. And Mr. Eddie McGivern, if he has anything to add to, I would ask for the board's consideration on that as well. As far as the fence, I recognize that picture, but I don't think that that's paint. I just think it's flaking oxidation. I don't think that we have any evidence that it is paint. In fact, everyone that I've spoken to, including individuals who've lived in the area, including Mr. McGivern, who's lived directly across the street from there for numerous years, has indicated that, at least to his recollection, that fence has never been painted. I've heard that from others in the community as well, including Vito Russo, who is part of the South Historic District. He had mentioned that he had never seen it painted, and he was of the opinion that he didn't think it needed to be painted. Now, that's neither here nor there, because he's not here to address that, but that's just been what's conveyed to me. Now, in terms of what the board should rely on here is, I understand under 5479, the criteria to base the decisions are based on the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. So I have a page from that that I'll leave with the board that specifically is titled Metals, Wrought and Cast Iron, Steel, Pressed Metal, Turn-to-Plate, Copper, Aluminum, and Zinc. So on that paper, they have 2 columns. They have recommended and not recommended. Under not recommended, it says applying paint or other coatings to metals such as copper, bronze, or stainless steel if they were not coated historically. It does continue to read unless a coating is necessary for maintenance. I would say that it would be in need of maintenance if any of that fence were in a point of deterioration other than natural oxidation. So if you've been out to that fence is as solid as the day that it was built. There's no pieces that are about to fall or break apart. There's nothing that has been oxidized to the point where it is hollow or it poses any danger or any kind of risk to anybody walking by. It's merely an aesthetic natural oxidation. So in light of that, I would just ask that at this point, the board, in line with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehab related to metals, and our position that there was never a coating on these metals, would ask that painting not be required at this point. So may I present this to the board?
Please,
Yeah.
to Ms. Krantz. Yes.
I have to disagree. It shows that it had been painted. It's not an opinion based on just observation, from the pictures, but most of my life was as a painter, union painter, so on and so forth. I worked maintenance at a hospital. My job was to paint the iron fences. This fence had paint on it at one time, I guarantee it.
Okay. We will get an opportunity to discuss that as a board in just a bit. But I would like to hear from all the public on this, and then we'll proceed from there.
Well, if I may, in terms, where exactly is this? Because I do know that two portions of the fence were inadvertently painted, and those were the gates. So if this was the gate, then maybe, but that has since been pressure washed, so it all looks uniform at this point.
That photograph was taken approximately halfway down the fence line, and you can see where it lines up with the front porch in the background.
So to the right of the gate,
To the,
if you're looking at.
if the right of the gate,
Oh,
if
sorry.
that the area that's been painted that you mentioned is at the corner of
Yeah.
Kirkland and Emmett, and it stretches about 4 or 5 feet, maybe. This is about halfway down the fence line. There was no gate there.
And one of the things, I'm not sure what standard that the board relies on is the competent substantial evidence similar to a commission hearing, but we don't have anything other than opinions as to what exactly that is. We don't have any evidence that that's actually paint aside from, one opinion. So I don't think that's competent substantial evidence to support that.
Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Harriet Andrews, 9211 55th Street North, Pinellas Park, Florida. And again, when we talk about the painting of the fence, I'd like to offer these photographs. They're date stamped from 1999, as well as some in the 2000s that are really good pictures of various portions of the fence that is not painted. So I would like to share those, but I would like them back if you need them for.
Would you please provide them to Ms. Krantz?
Absolutely. Also, with regard to the sheds, we've asked our contractor, Edward Mitchner, to speak to the sheds and what should happen there. It's my understanding that he's worked in the historic district before and is familiar with that area and what would be appropriate. So we've asked him to come to the meeting to share or answer any questions on that subject.
I'm Edward from Edward Senior Construction out of Crescent City.
Please proceed with speaking to the demo of the sheds that she's
Okay.
referring
I
to.
was hired by Maria Corporation to demo, well, they want to demo one and repair the other. I know this statement says two. But I was hired to demo one down. What is gonna happen is that block wall that you see there, standing, the CMU wall, that's gonna come down. And the wall and the footer and the wall that projects out toward the fence. There's a CMU wall there also. It's about 4 or 5 foot high. It's coming down all the way to the back of where we're gonna tear down or demo down the building that's gonna be repaired. Now, if that second building have to be repaired, we'll have to bring that CMU wall all the way to the first building. I'm just stating this right now in case that doesn't work for you guys.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at pictures here at the same time. And with respect to this, are you saying that, I'm trying to make sure I heard you clearly, the entire wall would have to come down even if, because the request is for is it the middle to be restored and the others to come down? But that wall next to the one there, that would be coming down, and along the back where I think the staff report mentioned that that was along the property line and no longer consistent with current code.
Right.
Okay, so I would have a question for, if they are doing that, do we have another issue, not for this board, but from a zoning? Or do they need to, if they're gonna now do something to tear down something that, and is something going to be replaced there, or?
It's dilapidated. The block of wall is coming down. I mean, it's not-
Okay.
And it's unsafe. If you ask me.
Because it looks like it goes all the way over to the other side there. Okay.
Mr.
Yes, Ms.
Chairman,
Swan?
the application was to demolish the two structures that you can see in the photograph, that are the pitched roof structure in the center, and then the remaining part of it to the left. It looks like a flat roof, and that connects to that concrete wall that you can see in the photograph. They'd like to retain the structure in the far corner.
In the far corner, not the one with the pitch roof that is consistent with the build. No, what's the, yeah, make sure we know which.
That is the unit that we want to demolish. We want to, if we can, keep, we want to fix the one in the middle and just leave the second one up to keep it. Because the one on the far end, there really isn't an issue with that one. The issues in terms of code enforcement and need of repair are just the one on the first one on the far left, and the one in the middle.
I'd like to clarify that what you're saying is the one with the pitched roof would be kept. And the one to the far right that looks like wood, you want to keep that too. But you want to remove the first one, the wall, and the first one where I see a garage door sort of up that's attached to the roof.
Yes, exactly. And just since we're not on site and the picture isn't clear, if you can see where the second building, the one with the pitched roof, meets the first unit, there's like
in between.
there's like metal just literally laying on top of that. So that portion can be easily removed and has nothing to do with that middle. So
Right.
that's really
Be the one that you would like to leave standing.
and
And then
repair.
the wood one that goes to the right of that, and everything from the left of the side of the pitched roof you want to remove,
Correct.
correct? Including the wall.
Correct. And we don't believe that, I mean, obviously that concrete wall is not
And the
historic. I'm thinking any.
you're talking about now. What is the year of that?
1967 to 9.
And what would be put in place of that? If you took that down, the backyard would be exposed and there wouldn't be anything.
Yeah, there's a block wall.
Okay, so that wouldn't be removed. The block wall would stay.
Correct. So in the block.
In the back.
Built that block wall to give us support.
Get in the speed.
I'm
I
sorry, sir.
understand
Can
you-
you approach the mic and give your name and,
My name is, I should say Eric.
I'm sorry, could you hold on for 1 second, please?
May I ask Ms. Neely to collect the photographs that from earlier and copy them for the record and provide them back to the owner?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
there's a second half there. You can continue though.
My name is Eric McGibbon. I live at 421 Emmett Street, which is directly across Emmett Street from this property. I spent a lot of time on this property as a kid. Sometime in the mid to late 70s, the owner at that time, Billy Massey, had a Comagia Volkswagen and also had a little Porsche 914. She wanted somewhere to get him out of the weather. So her son and some neighborhood kids built up a concrete wall for support to make the lean-tos run from the existing structure. Now, we also built the wood structure back there as our shop. We work on vehicles back there. We built several Willis Jeeps back there and Volkswagens and trucks. But what the Sanborn maps show for structures, those structures must have been tore down years before, because from my recollection, 65, the only structure that stood before we started building stuff back there was the two-story structure that you could see. Now, I'm not saying there wasn't structures back there in the 20s, but from 65 on, there was no evidence of any structures, especially in that corner. We poured a slab there. We built the block wall higher so we could get that up there, put rafters, and built that whole shop. That's where we did our wrenching. And to the fence, I painted those gates several times as a kid, but the fence had never had paint on it that I knew of. I think it came from the factory out of Pittsburgh, has black wrought iron, and they see some black on it. It's just where the patina hadn't got a hold of. There is flaking in that filigree work up top that you got pictures of, but I think that's just that iron flaking off.
Is there a sealant that could be put on that iron fence?
I can't tell you the name of it, but there's a compound that shipbuilders use that you spray on iron and it turns that rust back to iron, and it also makes it black. So that could be an option, other than paint. Because unless you take that fence completely apart, section by section, and have it media blasted somehow or another, paint's not going to do any good. But it's had that same patina and rust on it since I was 5 years old, as far as I can remember back.
My concern is not really about the paint. It would be more about putting a sealant on it or something to
Protect it from going further. Yeah, and that smaller work is the only places that I think that it's really even flaking. The bars themselves are rock solid, like Will said. There's pitting in them, but there's no flaking.
Yeah, I've owned an old iron fence like that before, so. I'm familiar with it.
All right. Does that complete what we have in terms of comments on this matter?
Just the only last comment is that we're really trying to come in compliance with code. So these things are very important to us, that we can resolve them with the city and move forward. And
Okay,
that's.
we appreciate
yeah,
that. Thank
that's
you
our
very,
biggest concern.
very much. Okay, so at this point, we're gonna close the comments for, now, did you, I couldn't, I'm sorry, Ms. Kitchens, did you want to speak to? Okay, yes, I couldn't tell. I'm sorry.
Bad handwriting, sorry. Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. And I just wanted to add a little bit. I think Mr. McGibbon probably cleared it up. I've been familiar with this property for 75 years and 11 months. Pardon me, 75 years, 11 months, close to 12 years, close to 76 years. My family lived on Kirby Street until I was 2 years old. We visited what's now the Sherman Conan House up until the 60s, 70s, whatever. Anyway, the fence was always black. I was going to say, I don't know if it was painted, but it was always black. But I think Mr. McGibbon said when they came from the factory, they were black. So it's a possibility that's why it was black, but I never remembered seeing it rusty till recent years. which I don't think looks good, but I have no problem. I mean, I have no problem with that. I just wanted to add that in my lifetime, I had seen it black. And I think I predate Mr. Gibbon by a couple of years, so. Just adding my 2
You
cents.
might concede, okay.
Probably more than a couple, but just adding my perspective on it. It was black. Don't know if it was painted or not, but it was black and it looked great when it was black.
Okay, excellent. All right, we're gonna close the comment there and begin discussion amongst the members. Any comments, questions, thoughts? I have some, but I'll wait to share.
Again, I see evidence that there was paint on that fence at one time. It's historic. We got to worry about preserving it. It needs to be coated with something. And it was coated originally, so it needs to be, there's a good primer you can put on a metal fence. It'll stop the rusting process, but you have to put paint over it. It needs a coating to preserve it. It was coated originally.
Yes, I have a comment to make. I don't know whether it's a paint or not. My concern is more that there's something that's put on the fence to keep the historicness of it and the preservation of the fence, whether it's a sealant or whatever. I'm not sure what that is. Rather than a painting, it doesn't bother me whether it's painted or not, especially if it turns black. Like he said, that's a nice thing. The rusting look of it does not bother me. The preservation of the fence is my concern. So I would like to see some kind of a coating put on it.
I'll have to agree that it does need some kind of protectant just so it'll withstand several years to come, but the rust doesn't bother me. I mean, and if there is a sealant on there that will change it back to black rather than painting it, I would recommend that option other than painting, because painting is just going to be a hassle down the road.
I too, and I wrote down maintenance of the fence, not necessarily the look or appeal, but, and I appreciate you bringing the regulations and codes, because you know that's what we've got to go by and make decisions on. But when I look at the fence, if I'm saying, okay, you guys are coming into dealing with code enforcements, but we're here to deal with historic matters. And when I look at the fence too, if someone was partially restoring something, we'd have issue with it. This seems to go halfway. You've cleaned it up, but if there was a possibility to bring it as close back to its original presentation, which I believe was black at some point, that would be preferable. The maintenance of it, so it doesn't further deteriorate, is really the key thing that I'm concerned about from that standpoint. And so if there would be some consideration, I think I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm hearing from the board members to address the maintenance of it so it doesn't further deteriorate. And if that could, by some way, get it back to an original color, then beautiful. But the key thing that we're looking at is from a maintenance standpoint, that so that it doesn't further deteriorate and become any type of a hazard.
Agreed. That's what I.
Okay. I want to get to, and then we'll come back if we, now the structures. Any thoughts? It looks like you have something, Ms. Walsh.
Did you want to make a motion to that effect about the fence?
I actually wanted to come back and do with both and do one and ask for one motion altogether.
Thank
It
you.
sounds like we've come to, okay. Yep. Technically that portion is closed, but I will yield to the members here if we want to reopen any of that after. Okay. Okay. All right. Did you want to do that? Is that on the fence, or can we move to the structures now? Okay, well, let's hear that. Let's hear that now. but you please step up to the mic. I'm sorry. So we can get this recorded and.
I appreciate all the comments. I'm trying to reconcile that, in terms of the state of the fence right now, it's more of an aesthetic issue because like I said that before, the deterioration is merely aesthetics. It's not, no part of the fence is to the point or even close to a point. And I've seen other wrought iron that, you know, with oxidation, sometimes it gets crumbly and it'll break. You can't point to one piece of that fence where that's happening. So I'm trying to reconcile between.
And that's what we're trying to address, because we know, just like your statement said, that is coming.
And, but I mean, it hasn't come in the past 60 years. And again, all the people that I've spoken to that have, we've done work there, people walk by, say, oh, you guys are putting the place up, love the fence, we like the patina. You know, you've seen when people try to rehab things or restore things, a lot of times it's frowned upon to paint things or to try to make them look new when they're not new. We want to keep the fact that it is antique and looks antique. So I would just say one last thing is that the maintenance is aesthetic. Again, there's no portion that's even close to becoming structurally unsound on that fence.
I would like
Go
to go ahead and make a comment on that. I'm not looking at it as aesthetics. I'm looking at it as a maintenance on a historic fence on a very significant historic property in Palatka that needs to be made sure that it will not deteriorate. It is one of the jewels of our town, your property. And I would love to see that be maintained and taken care of. So I still want to see some kind of a coating put on that to preserve the fence.
Okay, let's move on to the structures. Any comments from the members regarding the request? And to clarify again, to make sure we have this right, we are talking, the request is to retain the middle structure there, the one with the point, and demolish both that are on either side of that, including the wall. No, you're shaking that. The one, only the one to the left. So keep, and I forgot your name, sir, where where you guys built the cars. Yeah, keep that one. That's a solid, because yeah. And that, yeah, I really couldn't see. When I was at home, I was trying to zoom in on that picture. Okay. All righty. Okay, so to make sure we're clear, it is only the one on the far left that is being demolished. The other two are being retained and restored. That is the request.
The only thing there is that the one in the middle is repaired. The other one, the one on the end, there hasn't been any.
Yeah, there's nothing to be, but that one is being retained. I'm just trying to get what's going away in terms of being demolished. I'm trying to make sure, because I think that is the request before us.
And what is the repair on that? The main structure with the gable roof, what is the repair on that?
We won't exactly know, not until it's all demoed off. Because you could be looking at structural damage. I mean, that thing may be structural.
Let me ask it this way. What is the intent with that structure? To make sure that it's restored to functional use? As it could be as simply stated as that, or what's the, because you're opening up whether, okay, if this is there, then you're gonna might do this, if this, so.
At this point, for the middle structure, intent is to just get it into compliance with code because of the dilapidated state that it's in.
Gotcha.
So I would say that the majority of the dilapidation that we actually see in this photograph is from that seam out to the left to that brick, to that top wall. That once that's gone, that will change aesthetically the look of the remaining structures, and will improve that entire sightline from the street.
And I believe what may have been getting to is, well, when you're restoring that piece that'll be retained, is that going to be in guidelines with restored with historical guidelines, whether the windows retain the pretty much the materials, everything like as,
If there's damage to the building, the windows, the doors,
Yeah.
the roof.
I think that's what
it
she's
will
getting at.
Stored back to the historic significance that it was.
At this point, I would say yes, but the main point of it is just to, at this point, get the okay to demolish the one part and do repairs that will bring that structure in the middle into compliance so that it's not in a dilapidated state. So if that entails making any kind of repairs, those repairs would be in line with.
And this is done from,
Like I wouldn't be changing anything.
from code enforcement. So what are we allowed to ask about what code enforcement asked you to do with that building, what they saw the problems were and asked you to fix?
I sent several emails to code enforcement to address that and never received a specific response, so I can only rely on the initial complaint. And the initial complaint simply said that it was a dilapidated structure, so I don't know exactly what that dilapidation means because I wasn't provided with a detailed list, like X is dilapidated, Y is dilapidated. So at this point, like I said, at this point, I think that removing the portion to the left is what anybody who walks by that street is gonna be like, that's what's dilapidated on this structure, is that portion.
Okay.
The rest looks old, but it's, it can be fixed with some things here.
And I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth here, but your ask is, because when we look at this, if we say okay about the demolition, then I don't know that if you're starting to do something with that centerpiece, whether you're going to have to come back on that. That's what I'm trying to prevent. And so I'm trying to get some clarification on that now.
Right. So the clarification is that's why we have Mr. Mishner. He has worked in the historical community before and he is the GC. So we're going to go with his expertise on that, using like material and making sure it's appropriate to the history of the home. Can you speak to that?
Because
So-
that is what I'd like to actually
That's the
include
concern.
in our piece,
It's-
that piece.
For me, it's a little too open. What you're saying, because I would like to see that center piece retained and restored. If your contractor is saying to me, what I'm hearing is that he won't know if it's restorable or if you're gonna restore it until he starts taking down the structures to the left of it, which is open for me. That's too open for me. I want to see
Right, I mean, I
that
think it-
structure restored.
It will be. But still, there again, I don't know how much damage done to the building.
Okay. But I think we have enough to go ahead and craft what our recommendations would be on this. So thank you. So we're gonna close that part again and come here to see whether we can entertain a motion with respect to this request. On the fence, we were really focusing on, I thought the comments were focusing on maintenance and preservation. And so any suggestions or as to how you would want to craft or deal with in terms of this?
I would like to see
Recommendation.
the fence have some kind of a coating put on it to restore, to maintain the fence, whether it's a coating or whatever. That's what I would like to see on the fence.
Okay, so
My only concern is if you put paint on it, that I'm trying to put into words, that it's going to almost make it more modern looking.
Yeah,
that it might even get into those detailed grooves and make it look.
that is my, when I speak from my looking at this, I wouldn't want it to be painted to try to look modern and move away from where it is. But I am very interested, and I know the gentleman spoke to, it hasn't happened yet, but boy, it's had a 60-year head start now. It's going to happen. And so if there is something that we can do to maintain the fence, the rust color, all of that stuff doesn't, I don't think that bothers anybody.
No, that
up
that
here.
doesn't bother me.
And so we believe something needs to be done to provide for the maintenance. So further deterioration isn't taking place sooner than we'd like. So as I'm chairing this one, so I need a motion from what do you guys? On this?
Fence does not need to be painted, but it does need to have some kind of a sealant put on it to, and whatever that is, can come back at a later date with the recommendation of that, for the fence to be preserved.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion here regarding the fence and a second. Any further discussion?
They're gonna bring the product here for approval prior to applying it?
This is, you guys, is that part of your motion or?
Well, I mean, can be up for discussion here on how are we gonna know what the product is, and I mean, you know, how far do we want to go with that? I mean, you know, we're saying that it has to be done, and, you know.
I would be comfortable going with just letting them know that the materials you need to use are in accordance with the preservation of it, not necessarily to bring said materials back. And so that, I know it's not an honor system that we operate on, but yes, somewhat we do, but that would be fine with
That would be
me.
satisfactory. with
Okay.
me.
Yes.
All right, so we'll retain the motion as stated before. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Opposed? Okay, so we've got, it passes with 3-1 on that one. Now to the shed or the other structures for demolition. Is there a motion concerning those?
I still have a statement that I originally made. My motion would be, that that center, I have no problem with the stuff to the left being removed, the wall and the small structure to the left of the main building. I want to see the building restored. If it needs, you know, I'm not even sure what the building is. Is it wood frame? Is it, okay, if it needs to structurally be structured again and, you know, the wood framing put on and the windows done and the roof and so on, I would like to see that done. I would not like to see the building removed or knocked down.
Or
And the
made modern?
building on the side, the other side, the wood building, to see, you know, that whatever needs to be done to that cleaned up or. Okay, well, provided it's not an issue, then that's fine.
If those,
To code and the way that it needs to be.
it would be two things at a minimum, and then Ms. Walsh will go. If anything, code enforcement needs to be dealt with in accordance with whatever they laid out and what they have to come back and inspect for. But as far as whatever repairs associated with that, we would want that to be like or as historical material. So that garage is in essence, I look at it as a garage. I don't know if someone's calling it someone else, but that structure is back to a close to historical condition. And so, Ms. Walsh, did you have?
I do have a comment. I believe that if that structure is to be restored, that the materials that are going to be used and the process and plans of how it will be done should come back before the board for a certificate of appropriateness.
Okay, all right. All right, so, okay. Well, what happens with that, or do you want to speak to it, Mr. Cutright?
Eddie Cutright, County Enforcement Director. I have been in conversation with Ms. Walsh about this property, and we are willing to give them a little time to work through the issues that y'all bring to them that they do repair. And we'll give them a little more time, but they gotta keep us in the loop on what's going on and what time they need, and make sure they meet those timelines that we give them.
Okay. That addresses your concern then for that. So then there would be, once you look at this and figure out what needs to be done to it, you would have to draw up the plans to restore, bring that back as far as an application to Ms. Walsh and go from there through this process. Okay, so then we're dealing solely with this current appropriateness request with the demolishing of that one section to the left there. Okay, do we have any motions related to that?
As the original, I'm sorry. May I,
Yes.
just for clarification, is Ms. Vogt withdrawing her original motion, or are we still amending and amending it again and again? I can read
We
back.
are-
what I've got.
I'm sorry. I ended up going back in that we have the separate motion for the fence, and that was voted on and done. Now, I know she started stating something regarding the structures, but I don't think we got there in terms of formalizing what that motion
She
is.
said I make a motion, but then it got changed a few times, so.
Okay.
Right, and we haven't had a second on that motion, the preliminary motion that she was making, so,
Correct.
okay.
Draw and then
I'll
stand your
withdraw
motion.
that motion and restate that, I'm okay with removing the left portion of that structure, and that there has to be, more, to see how the building is, the hip roof building, to be, determined what needs to be done, and with code enforcement in the time, and to get the certificate of appropriateness in order to move forward on keeping that building and restoring it. Is that
clear enough, Ms. Krantz, or
I-
if I can, I probably could restate that Ms. Voigt is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is moving to approve the request to demolish the building on the left side, leaving the two remaining buildings. And it is also the board's recommendation that with respect to the shed in the middle that will be retained, a certificate, they apply for the appropriate
Certificate of
certificate
appropriateness.
of appropriateness. Once they understand what needs to be done there in order to restore that.
and come back to
And
us?
yes, they'll have to come back to us with that. Okay,
Yes.
so that's been moved. Is there a second?
Then I'll second that, yes.
Okay. Why don't we? Any discussion or on that? We're good? Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I think that takes care of this matter. Thank you so very much. As been stated here, an incredible gem for Palaca, and we're so happy to see this progress moving forward. Thanks again. Okay, the next case, you're welcome.
Thank you.
The next case, HPB case 2302, request for a certificate of appropriateness to install a metal roof over a shingle roof. Sunshine?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Sunshine Neely, Planner One. This application proposes to place a metal roof over existing shingles on a residential structure at 322 Emmett Street. The structure is located within the South Historic District, requiring the Historic Preservation Board to review it, as the replacement roofing is not the same material as the existing roofing. The property is not currently listed as a contributing structure in the Florida Master Site File. The Putnam County Property Appraiser also lists the construction date of the house in as 1952 as the standard for determining whether a property is historic, is achieving an age of 50 years. This home may be included in the upcoming cultural survey update that should be completed in September of 2023. The applicant has provided the staff with a product style and color sheet of the roofing material. The picture that you see there is the actual home. And Sunny, I believe there you go. So that is the product style that they will be using. Staff finds the proposed replacement, staff finds that the proposed replacement will not impair the architectural or historical value of the home, or take away from the character of the district. Staff recommends approval of the certificate of appropriateness for HPV 2302 at 322 Emmett Street for a metal roof.
I hate to ask this question, but I don't know which property is. Is it the, when you said 52, is it the ranch style home? Like, there's like 3, I know it's not the one on North Street.
It is, yes. Yes.
The address was here.
Yeah.
You told me it had to be that.
Yeah. That was, I think the best picture we can get from Google.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure I'm, looking at the right house.
Okay, does that complete the staff
It does.
report?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments regarding anyone who's here for this case? Okay, all righty. You're ready. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Okay, do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, we allow them to put the metal roof on.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Okay, it's been moved and second to approve the staff's recommendation to allow the metal roof. Any discussion, any issue? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. And
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Any staff comments? Doesn't look like it. Okay, yes, Miss, I'm sorry.
If you would like to hear about the cultural resource survey update, I did mention it before at the commission meeting.
Okay,
We have, on the upcoming agenda, an intent to award, or we plan to award a contract to a company, and that should be starting very soon. So if you see people in the neighborhood, you'll know what they're doing there, and you can tell other people if they ask you.
so I think we had a move to motion to adjourn. Okay, seconded? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Ms.
Thank-
Val.